Stop believing that passion by itself will keep a man loyal, because it never will. There is something far more important that earns a man's respect than any physical bond, and most women overlook it completely. Once you understand this truth, you will stop chasing his approval and instead make him see you as someone he cannot replace. Respect is not created in the bedroom. Respect is born in the everyday moments when you show him your strength, your values, and your self-worth. Men don't stay with the woman who gives everything away without question. They stay with the woman who inspires them to rise to her level. There is incredible power in a person who knows exactly where they stand and refuses to betray their own values just to avoid a little discomfort. When you tell someone no, not out of anger, not to stir up drama, but because you clearly see that something crosses a line, you reveal your true self. You show a backbone. You show a sense of self that cannot be bought with sweet words, manipulated by guilt, or shaken by fear of being abandoned. This is not about trying to control a man or dominate the relationship. It is about sending a strong message. My love is not blind. My loyalty is not blind, and my dignity cannot be traded. That single act alone creates a level of respect that passion will never build. Many people believe that saying yes to everything will protect them from rejection. They think that the way to a man's heart is by agreeing, pleasing, and avoiding conflict. But the reality is, constant compliance doesn't build love, it creates contempt. Every time you say yes to something that goes against your values, you teach others that your values don't count. And when that happens, little by little, you lose your sense of worth. Boundaries are not walls meant to block people out. They are gates that protect what is valuable while still allowing real connection. When you choose not to engage in behavior that disrespects you, you force the man in your life to make a decision. Will he rise to meet your standards, or will he leave because all he wanted was to take whatever you were willing to give? Either way, you win. If he leaves, you are free of someone who never planned to treat you right. If he stays and rises, you now have a man who sees you as someone worthy of cherishing. This can feel difficult because it carries risk. Saying no may mean letting him down, creating a tense moment, or even losing him. But strangely enough, this very risk is what earns his respect. It shows that you are not afraid to walk away if things go against your values. That is what separates a relationship built on mutual admiration from one built on fear of being left behind. Think about the couples you admire most, the ones who seem deeply bonded. If you look closely, you will see that respect is the foundation, and respect is born in those moments of clarity when one person calmly says, "This does not work for me," and then stands firm. Respect is not earned by giving up your boundaries, it's earned by guarding them with quiet, steady courage. When you say no, you also keep desire alive. People naturally value what they cannot easily have. If you give everything, your time, your body, your energy, without any thought, you remove the mystery and tension that keeps attraction alive. Saying no creates contrast. It shows that your love is a choice, not an obligation. It makes your yes more powerful because it comes from freedom and not from fear. Each time you hold to a boundary, you strengthen your belief that you are worth protecting. Your self-respect grows, and with it, your confidence. That confidence shows in the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you engage with the world. Men notice this energy. It is magnetic because it is rare. Most people shape themselves into whatever they think will make others stay. Very few stand firm and invite others to meet them there. And here's the deeper truth. When you refuse to betray yourself, you are also helping the man you're with. A man who keeps crossing lines will eventually lose respect for himself too. By standing firm, you give him a chance to grow into a better version of himself. You reflect back his higher potential. And if he chooses to grow, your bond becomes something far stronger than attraction. It becomes a partnership where both people make each other better. Of course, this takes wisdom. Not every disagreement is a matter of boundaries. Saying no as a way to control or punish is not strength, it's manipulation. The kind of know that earns respect comes from knowing yourself deeply, knowing what matters most and why. Then when the moment comes, you speak with calm certainty, not with anger. You don't need to shout or threaten. Your steady tone says enough. Over time, this steadiness becomes the anchor in the relationship. He knows that when you say yes, you truly mean it. When you give yourself, it is out of love, not fear. That creates security for him as well, because he no longer has to guess whether you resent him for stepping past your limits. He knows exactly where you stand, and that clarity builds trust. So do not fear holding the line. Do not fear being misunderstood for the sake of your integrity. A man who truly loves you will not run from your boundaries. He will respect them, and the respect that grows there lasts far longer than any passing thrill. It builds a relationship where passion is fueled by admiration, and love becomes a daily choice based on honor. There is nothing more attractive, more magnetic than a person who stays steady in the middle of emotional storms. Life will test you. Relationships will test you. There will be arguments, disappointments, moments when you feel tempted to let anger or fear take over. But when you learn to master yourself in those moments, when you choose calm clarity over emotional chaos, you transform the relationship. Men notice this. They notice when you can stay grounded while they are losing control. They notice when you don't slam doors, scream, or use guilt to force your way. Instead, you become the anchor in the storm. That steadiness creates a level of respect that no physical act could ever match, because it proves you are strong enough to hold things together when everything feels like it's falling apart. Emotional control doesn't mean hiding your feelings. It means owning them and using them in a way that builds rather than destroys. When you're upset, you take a moment before speaking. You choose your words with care. You focus on the issue, not on tearing the person down. This kind of maturity is rare. Most people let their emotions rule them. They say things they regret. They react instead of responding, and they end up damaging trust. But when you refuse to let emotions control you, you show a strength that demands respect. This is also deeply comforting. Men carry pressures they rarely share about work, money, proving themselves. When they come home and find a partner who brings calm instead of chaos, it changes everything. It makes them feel seen, understood, safe. This doesn't mean you pretend to be fine when you're not. It means you express yourself in a way that invites solutions rather than escalates conflict. Imagine how powerful it is when, during a disagreement, instead of yelling, you say, "I'm upset about this, and we need to find a better way." Suddenly, the fight is no longer about winning or losing. It becomes about solving the problem together. That is where real intimacy grows. You show him that conflict doesn't have to ruin the relationship. It can actually strengthen it. And here's another truth. Emotional control makes people listen. When you speak calmly but with certainty, your words carry weight. They are not fueled by desperation. You are not just venting, you are making clear, intentional points. That level of composure is powerful. It makes him want to listen, want to improve, want to respect you even more. Strength also saves you from unnecessary drama. Not every disagreement needs to become a war. When you choose to de-escalate rather than inflame, you stop small problems from becoming major ones. Over time, this builds an atmosphere where both of you feel safe enough to be vulnerable without fear of being torn apart emotionally. Respect thrives in such an atmosphere. Even more, you set an example. When you regulate your emotions, you encourage him to do the same. You show him another way to handle conflict. Instead of shouting, he speaks more calmly. Instead of shutting down, he begins to open up. Your steadiness becomes contagious, and the whole relationship grows stronger because of it. Make no mistake, this doesn't mean being passive. Real emotional control requires bravery. It is easy to explode, blame, criticize, but it takes strength to pause, to think before speaking, to express yourself without cruelty, and to hold your ground with calmness. That strength earns admiration. It shows you have mastered yourself, and that mastery changes how he sees you. Suddenly, you are not only his partner, but someone he respects, someone he looks up to, someone who inspires him. This kind of respect doesn't fade, it grows, because it is built on something firm. Over time, this steadiness becomes the reason he feels deeply connected to you. When he knows that no matter how hard life gets, you won't lash out recklessly, you won't use his weakness against him, and you won't destroy the relationship just to prove a point, he feels safe. And safety is what lets love grow. Passion grows in safety, desire grows in safety, trust grows in safety. So when life tests you and your emotions demand to take control, pause, take a breath, ask yourself what outcome you truly want, and then speak from that place. You will be amazed at how powerful your presence becomes when you choose composure over chaos. That single decision made again and again becomes one of the most magnetic and respected qualities you could ever build. One of the most underrated yet powerful ways to gain a man's respect is through the way you show appreciation. Gratitude, when expressed the right way, is not just being polite. It is a force that can change how a man feels about himself and how he looks at you. Many women don't realize how deeply men long for recognition, not for the sake of ego, but because it affirms their effort, their contribution, and their role in your life. When you choose to notice what he does, even the small things, you are telling him, I see you, I value what you bring, and it matters to me. That recognition sparks something strong inside him, but here's the truth. Gratitude has to be sincere and balanced. Overdoing praise, constantly flattering, or thanking him for every little thing just to keep him satisfied does not create respect, it builds dependence. When you go too far, it loses its meaning, it turns into background noise. But when you offer it genuinely, in moments when it truly counts, it lands deep. Men flourish when they know their effort is seen. They are built to work, to strive, to achieve. And when their actions are met with real recognition, it gives them a strong sense of purpose. This doesn't mean you only appreciate him for big wins. Actually, the small things matter most. Noticing when he does something thoughtful, like fixing something in the house, helping you solve a tough problem, or being there for you on a hard day, and then telling him, I'm thankful you did this, it really made a difference, carries powerful weight. It shows him that you don't take him for granted. It drives him to keep showing up in those ways. He feels respected because you're showing him his effort has meaning in your life. It's also crucial that gratitude comes without hidden strings. If you say thank you but follow it up with criticism, it erases the effect. True appreciation stands on its own. It is not manipulation. It is not a tactic to get him to do more. It is a genuine recognition of who he is and what he gives. And when a man feels truly seen, he feels valued not just as a provider or partner, but as a person. Appreciation also builds a healthy cycle in the relationship. When you acknowledge his efforts, he feels motivated to do more. When he does more, you have more to appreciate. The whole energy shifts from blame and criticism to encouragement and growth. Over time, this cycle creates a strong bond of mutual respect. And here's something else. Gratitude changes you too. When you choose to notice what is good instead of always focusing on what's wrong, your outlook changes. You stop seeing him as someone who constantly falls short and start seeing him as someone who is trying. That change makes you more patient, more understanding, and more compassionate. Men sense this shift. They can feel when you see them as a failure versus when you see them as someone working to improve. When they feel believed in, they naturally want to live up to that belief. This is why acknowledging progress, even if it's small, is so powerful. Maybe he's working on being more open emotionally. Maybe he's trying to help more with daily tasks. Maybe he's learning to communicate in a better way. If you notice those efforts and affirm them, he feels encouraged to continue. Respect is not only about setting high standards. Withholding appreciation out of pride or fear of boosting his confidence too much is damaging. Some women hold back praise thinking it will make him arrogant or lazy, but the truth is the opposite. A man who feels unseen often grows distant, cold, or resentful. Respect thrives where appreciation is given, not where it is withheld. But keep in mind, the strongest appreciation is specific. A plain thanks fades fast. But saying, "I really value how you handled that situation. It made me feel secure and supported," leaves a lasting mark. Specific words show him you were paying real attention. And paying attention is one of the deepest ways to show respect. Balance also matters. Gratitude should never cost you your self-respect. Don't pretend to be thankful for things that hurt you or cross your boundaries. Real appreciation is about honesty, not about pleasing him. It's not about shrinking yourself so he feels larger. It's about recognizing when he is truly contributing to the relationship. When he shows up in ways that matter and you honor that with your words, something changes. When you do this consistently, you will notice something powerful. He starts seeking your approval, not out of fear, but out of love. He begins to measure his actions by whether they will earn that look of pride from you. That simple, "I'm proud of you," can mean more to him than almost anything else. This level of respect can transform a relationship into a place where both of you are inspired to grow rather than just coexist. And maybe the most important part, appreciation reminds him why he chose you in the first place. A man can be with the most beautiful woman in the world, but if she constantly criticizes, belittles, or ignores his efforts, he will feel empty. But a woman who can balance standards with gratitude builds a bond that is very hard to walk away from. She becomes his safe place. She becomes the person who strengthens him rather than drains him. And that is a type of respect no one else can compete with. There is also something magnetic about a person who never stops improving. When you invest in yourself, when you chase your own growth, when you refuse to stay stuck, you become a constant source of inspiration, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you, including the man by your side. Growth is attractive because it represents life, movement, and possibility. When you are evolving, you remind him that life is not only about routine and survival. It's about becoming more than you were yesterday. A relationship can only be as strong as the people in it. If one person stops growing, the connection slowly becomes dull. Attraction weakens, admiration fades, and the bond starts to feel like a weight instead of a source of strength. This is why following your own dreams and passions is not selfish. It is one of the best things you can do for your relationship. It shows you are not depending on him to be your only source of happiness or purpose. You already carry that within yourself, and it makes you more radiant. When you focus on growth, you become more interesting. You have stories to tell, new insights to share, and skills to bring into the relationship. You bring fresh energy because you are not repeating the same cycle every day. You are learning, exploring, and expanding. Men respect a woman who has her own life, who stands firm on her own, who is curious about the world and refuses to settle for less. And this is not about perfection or endless achievement. It is about being intentional with your life. It is about reading books that stretch your thinking, trying new experiences that broaden your view, improving your health so you have more energy to give, and learning skills that make you proud of yourself. Every step you take toward a stronger version of yourself strengthens the ground you stand on, and that foundation makes you more confident, more steady, and more powerful in your relationship. There's another hidden truth here. Your growth encourages his growth. When he sees you improving yourself, he remembers his own potential. He doesn't want to stay behind. He wants to rise with you. This creates a beautiful balance where both of you push each other to improve, not because of competition, but because you want the best for each other. This kind of relationship creates an upward flow. You improve, he improves. Together you build a life that feels exciting, not boring. But this works only when your growth comes from love, not resentment. If you use growth as a weapon to punish him or prove you don't need him, it backfires. Growth should should come from love for yourself, for life, and for the person you are becoming. When you grow with joy, it becomes contagious. He will want to be near that energy because it feels inspiring and alive. Also remember, growth isn't just about career or external success. Emotional growth, spiritual growth, intellectual growth, all matter. Learning to communicate with care, becoming more patient, developing emotional awareness, these are powerful shifts that make you not only a better partner, but a better person. They make the relationship a safe space where both of you can be vulnerable, make mistakes, and still move forward. There's a quiet strength that comes with personal growth. When you know you're always improving, you stop comparing yourself to others. You stop worrying whether you're enough. You realize you are a work in progress, and that is something to be proud of. That quiet confidence shines out of you. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You deal with life differently. And men notice this. They feel drawn to a woman alive with purpose. Growth also prevents you from losing yourself in the relationship. Many people make the mistake of pouring their whole identity into their partner, and over time, they lose their spark. They become dependent on the relationship for self-worth. But when you stay committed to your own evolution, you keep your individuality, which keeps the bond healthy. You're not just his partner, you're also your own person, and that is very attractive. Even in tough seasons, growth gives you power. When challenges come, you don't fall apart because you have built resilience. You've faced hard times before. You've learned from setbacks. You know you can rise again. This kind of strength inspires respect because it proves you are not just a passenger in life. You are driving. In the end, growth is a sign of respect for yourself and your relationship. It says, I care enough about this connection to bring the best version of myself. It says, I'm willing to do the work on me so we can thrive. That message is powerful. It makes him see you as someone he can build a future with because you refuse to stay stuck. So keep learning, keep improving, keep chasing the next version of yourself. Do it not just for him, but for you. Do it because you refuse to waste your potential. And as you grow, you will notice respect comes naturally, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it by becoming a woman who shows strength, curiosity, and vision. There is a special power in being the person who can hold someone accountable without tearing them apart. True respect is not only admiration, it's also knowing you can challenge each other to grow even when it feels hard. Many people avoid this because they fear conflict, rejection, or upsetting their partner. But when you have the courage to speak truth into his life with love and clarity, you show you are not just there for the easy parts. You are there to help him become the man he wants to be. Accountability is not the same as criticism. It is not nagging. It is not constant complaining. Accountability is about seeing the higher version of him, the man you know he can be, and not letting him settle for less. This means calling him out when he acts below his own potential, but doing it in a way that builds him up instead of breaking him down. When you can look him in the eye and say, I know you're better than this, it lands differently than an insult or lecture. It becomes a challenge, an invitation for him to rise. Men respect this kind of strength because it shows that you care about his growth just as much as you care about your own. It proves that you are invested not only in the relationship, but also in his character, his integrity, and his future. Many women fall into the mistake of staying silent because of fear. They think avoiding serious conversations will keep harmony, but what it really does is create hidden resentment. When you hold back, you might feel safe in that moment, but with time, you begin losing respect for him, and he starts losing respect for himself. Choosing to have the hard conversation is actually giving him a gift. You are saying, I believe in you enough to tell you the truth. And truth, when spoken with kindness, becomes one of the strongest forces in a relationship. At first, it might feel uneasy. It might even create tension. But that tension opens the door for real change to happen. And when he grows because of it, the respect between you deepens in a way nothing else can copy. Of course, accountability must always be balanced with patience and grace. The goal is never perfection. The goal is steady progress. When you challenge him, it has to come from love, not superiority. If he feels judged, put down, or shamed, he will distance himself. But if he feels supported, believed in, and reminded of his strengths, he will rise to meet them. The way you shape the conversation makes all the difference. Telling him, "You're lazy and never try," tears him down. Telling him, "I know you can do more and I'd love to see that side of you," uplifts him. This kind of loving accountability also builds trust. It shows him you are brave enough to be real, even when it's not easy. Many relationships fall apart because partners stop being honest. They begin to hide, to pretend, to avoid deeper truths. But where honesty lives, respect naturally follows. Even if he doesn't like your words in the moment, he will remember that you cared enough to say them. Later, when he thinks about it, he will see you were right and that you were always on his side. This is what makes you unforgettable. Anyone can flatter him. Anyone can nod along. Anyone can stay quiet. But very few people have the courage to challenge him with love. That is what makes you stand out. You are not just his partner. You are his mirror, showing him the best version of himself. And when he sees that version reflected, he starts striving toward it. Holding him accountable also means holding yourself accountable. You cannot ask him to grow if you refuse to grow yourself. This is why self-awareness matters so much. When you approach him with feedback, it must come from humility, not hypocrisy. You have to admit when you're wrong, apologize when needed, and own your part in any problem. That creates mutual respect because it proves you are in this together. With time, this process builds a bond that is deeply strong. You are no longer just living side by side. You are sharpening each other like iron sharpens iron. And that sharpening keeps the relationship alive and full of energy. It keeps both of you improving, evolving, becoming better. It also keeps the relationship safe from slipping into complacency. Many relationships end not from a huge betrayal, but because both people stopped pushing each other. They settled for good enough. They stopped encouraging each other to rise higher. But when accountability remains present, complacency has no space to grow. There is always a pull toward growth, truth, and deeper connection. So don't be afraid to speak the truth. Don't be afraid to ask for more, not only for yourself, but for him as well. If you can do this with kindness, with love, with calmness in your heart, you will earn a respect that is far beyond attraction. He will see you as the person who never let him stay small, the person who believed in him enough to push him, the person who made him better. That is the kind of respect that lasts a lifetime. There comes a moment in every relationship where your deepest values are tested. It may not happen often, but eventually you face a choice. Either stay true to what you believe or sacrifice it to keep the peace, to avoid loss, to stay comfortable. In that moment, both your self-respect and his respect for you are being decided. Walking away when your values are broken is one of the hardest choices you will ever make, but it is also one of the strongest forms of self-respect. This does not mean being cold or ending things at the first problem. It is not about being unforgiving or expecting perfection. It is about knowing your true non-negotiables, your dignity, your safety, your integrity, your vision for life, and refusing to stay in a situation where those things are ignored. When you draw that line and follow through, you send a clear message. I am not for sale. My love cannot be bought at the cost of my soul. Many people struggle with this because the fear of losing someone feels unbearable. They stay even while being disrespected, even when promises are broken again and again, even when their heart is slowly breaking. They tell themselves things will improve, or they convince themselves this must be what love feels like. But every time you betray yourself to keep someone, you lose a piece of who you are. And once you've lost enough pieces, the real you disappears. When you are willing to walk away, you take back your power. You no longer beg anyone to notice your worth. You stand firm in your worth. And often, this is the very moment when a man realizes just how serious you are, how valuable you are, and how much he risks losing if he doesn't change. Sometimes walking away is not the end of the story. It is the alarm that wakes up the relationship. Even if he doesn't change, even if it truly ends, you win because you kept yourself whole. You refused to settle for something that was destroying you. That kind of strength leaves a permanent impression. He may not admit it, but he will remember you as the woman who would not sell her soul. That memory demands respect that lasts far beyond the relationship itself. This choice also speaks to your future self. It tells her that you protected her. It tells her that her peace, her happiness, her life are worth defending. And that decision shapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as weak or powerless. You stop accepting whatever comes your way. You start seeing yourself as someone who chooses, someone who creates, someone who sets the standard for love. And here is the truth. When you have the courage to walk away from what is wrong, you open space for what is right. You create room for a relationship that honors you, for a man who is ready to meet you at your level, for a life where you do not sacrifice your dignity just to feel loved. It is always better to stand alone in truth than to stay connected in lies. This is why walking away is respected so deeply. Most people bend their values to avoid pain. Few are willing to face loneliness, fear, and heartbreak in order to choose themselves. But that courage is what separates you. It shows him that you will never be an option, that you will never be treated like a doormat, that you would rather risk loss than live small. When a man witnesses this level of strength, it will either scare him away or inspire him to rise. Either way, you win. If he leaves, he was never going to give you the respect you deserve. If he stays and changes, you now have a man who truly values you. Walking away is the ultimate test. It filters out the ones who were only there out of convenience and reveals the ones willing to fight for you. This choice is rarely easy. It often brings tears, pain, and moments of doubt, but strength is born in those exact moments. Respect is forged through fire, and when you come through it, you are unshakable. You know your values, you know what you will never accept, and you know you are strong enough to survive anything. So if you ever reach that turning point, don't let fear decide for you. Stand tall, speak clearly, and if you must, walk away with your head high, because the man who is truly worthy will either rise to meet you or realize too late that he just lost the best thing he ever had. Either way, you will have gained something priceless, your own respect.